It's the weekly show about Pro AV with the hottest news in the AV industry. It's rAVe TV. Give it up for Steph and Gary. Steph and Gary.
We are back.
We're back after 1 week.
Well, we actually went on an adventure.
We had a whirlwind of a weekend, that is for sure.
So our weekend started together in New York City at the Nrf Show. So the Nrf Show is the National Resale Federation. And let's show some images from that because we actually have some pictures that I took. First off, Jacob Javits looks beautiful now. They've done a great job renovating that since last time I was there for a show. This is the Amazon automated convenience store where you could go get food and drinks and stuff. You just all you had to do is scan your Amazon app, walk in, anything you took, it detected that you took it, and you just walk out. There were no people in there. It was really kind of cool. I got a bottled water by doing it. You just open up your Amazon app, scan it when you walked in, and it knew what you picked up and left with. So that's the first time I've been in one of those kind of things.
Well, this was not at the show, but there's a store in New York that I really like called Uniqlo. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah,
it's like a clothing store.
Well, hold on a second.
Okay.
Because Madeline's showing those pictures. This is the Nrf Show Floor. Now, this is before the show floor opened, by the way, Steph. So I don't want people to think that the show floor was empty. But this is before the show floor opened. I went around and just took pictures before it opened. But there's something I want to talk about these booths that you and I talked about. That is important to notice on this, and I'm going to ask Madeline to stop before she shows the Samsung booth. There's the boy, is that beautiful convention center now. They've done a great job with Jacob Javis. But Steph, go ahead. I want to hear your automated store thing because I used to love Uniqlo until I realized that I didn't fit in their clothes anymore.
Oh well. Happens to the best of us. No, their clothes are really nice. It's like a Gap kind of store. But they have like a self-checkout section, but you don't scan anything. You just dump all your clothes like on the section, and it like knows what clothes you have. Like I just logged into the app, and then it just knew everything that I had put in there. I didn't like have to scan. I just like dumped it all there in like a heap, and it like guessed everything, and like I just checked out and left. It was crazy.
And when I said I can't go there anymore, I meant that I'm too old. Like it really doesn't cater to people my age.
I don't think so. When my dad came to visit when I used to live there, he went there and like bought a bunch of stuff because he's like, "Oh, these are nice. Like they just have good staples."
It's so cheap,
but it's like also well made. So they have like really good like down jackets and
that's
stuff.
what I got. A vest. I got a vest there a couple of years ago. It didn't last very long, but it was great for that season. But so let's talk about those. Let's go back if Madeline will pop up those booth pictures before, not the Samsung, but the big pictures I showed because
just
Steph,
like a different type of show, you know?
Well, it could be the future of shows. It could be the future of shows because you and I talked about this and we talked to a number of exhibitors while we were there. I talked to Stratacache, talked to Sony, talked to Samsung, talked to NEC. I talked to about a half a dozen other brands. And I asked them, why are there no products in your booth? Really, there's not much stuff there. And they said, we see shows as a networking thing now. We don't think we're going to be doing shows with a lot of products in our booth. And when I talked to the team over at Sony and at NEC, they both said, at Infocom, we're going to have very few stuff in our booth. We're just going to basically have people that we're going to, use it. We'll show you what Samsung did because Samsung was probably the most comprehensive booth on the show floor. They didn't have product the way you traditionally did, but it was all a networking thing. They were really focused on relationships.
Well, when you have a big brand that has a lot of brand recognition and a lot of like brand like reliance on your brand, that I think that can work. But when it's like a small brand that people might not know about, like how are you going to get people to come to your small booth if you don't have a ton of stuff there? That's like my only question.
Good point. If you have something new or you're unknown, you're going to have to draw them in with the product. If you are established, you're juicing the relationships that you have. I agree with you on that. I think that's the future of shows. And I think that's one of the reasons why regional shows are going to be big because I think people are going to really, like seeing the products and they're not going to see as many products as they normally would at a big national show. So I think these regional shows that everyone's starting to announce regional shows. Crestron's doing one, Extron's doing one, Samsung's doing one, Sony's already doing one. LG's doing
a lot
one.
of the brands that we talked to in Meta NRF were all talking about that, the fact that they were going to think about doing it, or they were already doing a like road show or regional show. So I think that really is going to be much more of the things that we're going to see in the future, just so that they don't have a ton of people there, but like enough to where you can kind of feel a little safer COVID wise.
Agreed. And so here's what Samsung did at the show. They did vignettes based on themes. So there's the entrance to their booth. And again, this is during the show. So you're going to see there's not that many people necessarily there because, it's real focused. But what they did was they set up little vignettes based on how you use Samsung. So for example, this is to show drive-through. Hey, we do drive-through. And a lot, in our industry, we know they do drive-through, but in the Retail Federation, people that are there to buy, cups for movie theaters wouldn't know that Samsung does all this stuff. So flip through those pictures there. There's their little cafe that they had. And in this case, they were showing like a self-ordering through their kiosks, and they have little portable kiosks, unlike the McDonald's kiosks, which are giant. They have little portable ones right there.
Yes. So they can either they have a stand for it. It can sit on a counter, or it can be mounted into the wall. So they have like a few options of like how you want to install it.
They're showing their menu boards there too. And they also had a social media wall. Now this is interesting because they've integrated a social platform inside of the display. Using their Magic Info concept or in their internal digital signage platform. So you can put a vertical monitor up and actually show, TikToks and Instagrams and things like that.
So there's like an AI feature that kind of crawls through, like an example they showed me was Home Depot. So there was like an AI feature that crawls through, and it's like whenever people mention Home Depot on TikTok or Twitter or something, you can kind of set it to where like you want it to pull the best ones, because you set I want them to show it when it says Home Depot's the best, or a Home Depot project. And so it will like filter through like all the best tweets and TikToks and just kind of filter through those to like show customers people in real life using your products. Cause then a lot of times that's the best kind of ad, right? You didn't pay for it, but it ends up, it's showing it used in real life. So so you have owned, earned, and paid. This is earned media, as Steph is describing. And when you go into Home Depot in the future, you're going to see a ton of Samsung. They've just got a big deal with them. They're showing here sort of retail displays and point of purchase displays and checkout displays here. But they also had other little vignettes there. Let's keep going. That's just that's a electronic EV charging station for outside. Here they're showing, the fact that you can have displays on the outside of windows that are sunlight capable displays. And just showing different display applications. And then here they're showing as like behind the counter and checkout area where you check out and what kind of cool stuff you can do with LED, as well as LCD walls in this case. Their booth was vignettes. So remember, the people that go there aren't tech heads. They're people that like literally, like I said, order cups for movie theaters, but also design logos for big brands, but also are ad agency people. There were ad agency people there. The show attendance was about 1/5 what it normally would have been, 1/4, something like that. Yeah. Well, during COVID, and it's kind of a rough time, I think, in New York as well, because like we were walking around, and if there were not a lot of people on the streets as there normally are. So with a few of our coworkers, it was their first time in New York, and I got to take them to Times Square. And while we were walking, it started snowing, and it was very magical. But as you can see, like there are people in the background, but that is not what Times Square normally looks like. And I told them that. I was like, in normal times, you guys, you cannot move. Like it is just like people, you're elbow to elbow. You have to like hook arms with your friend in front of you so you don't get lost. So I'm glad that I got to show them like all the signage on Times Square and stuff without it being like worrying COVID wise, because we had a really great time.
Who is that? Like who would lay down on the ground?
I know. Okay. And it's a live picture too. So when you click on it, you see this child like doing a snow angel. Like
probably never seen snow before.
Yeah, but I would never lay on the ground in New York. Like you won't catch COVID, but God knows what you will catch.
Yeah, my ear is really itching all of a sudden.
So yeah, that was probably the funniest part, was that there was just a child in the corner doing a snow angel while we were just in the middle of Times Square.
If you've seen 5G logo on your phone for the last 2 years, like me, you kept thinking that the speeds of downloading stuff and browsing stuff on your phone was going to get faster, but it never has. It stayed the same. And if you've been watching the news, you know that this is the FCC's fault, 100%. They knew this was coming 2 years ago. Verizon and AT&T said, we're going to roll out 5G. And now all of a sudden, the airlines are begging the FCC to slow down the rollout. They've negotiated and said, okay, we're going to let 90% of the country have 5G, but we're going to shut it off over the major airports, on top of the Atlanta airport, above the New York airports, Chicago, LA. But we're going to have the national rollout of 5G finally. So now this logo on your phone will actually mean something. And for those of you who don't realize, you're going to have download speeds right away up to 1 gig. So if you have a new phone, like an iPhone 13, you'll get up to 1 gig download speeds, which, it's just unheard of. So it's going to change the face of internet servicing the last mile in your homes and in businesses forever at some point in time. Won't happen right away, but you could theoretically use your own mobile phone as a gateway or to tether off your home network and not have to have separate internet service with true 5G. And AT&T and Verizon have the best networks right now, but it's being slowed down by the FCC. And what's cool about this is this will help our industry in a big way, because all these displays can now have 5G receiving cards in them, and you can actually bypass any of the network connectivity issues that you're having now to get for example, digital signage display to show content, and just take it straight from a data connection. And you could, at 1G, you could stream pretty much anything, Steph.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's cool.
Kind of exciting. Yeah.
I mean, that is really exciting.
And another thing I wanted to share, news that happened yesterday that I want to put in perspective here, because as you know, Steph, I teach advertising at UNC, and this is big news, because I've been telling my students for years that a big future potential market for advertising is the gaming market. And yesterday, Microsoft purchased Activision Blizzard. Now, take a guess at how much they bought this for, Steph.
Oh, gosh. It's going to have to be, I would say, like a couple billion.
A little higher than that. It's they bought, listen to this, okay? So to put this in perspective, I want to put this in perspective. Disney bought Lucasfilm, which meant the whole cache of Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark for $4 billion.
Yes.
Then they turned around and bought Marvel. Think about how much they've done it. $4.5 billion. Okay. Microsoft, so those are movie properties, tons of movies, Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard for $69 billion yesterday.
But think about it. Like, World of Warcraft is such a huge, like, people have been playing that since, like, Call of Duty, and then, like, StarCraft, Diablo. Like, these are all very big games. World of Warcraft is probably the biggest one, but it's worth a lot of money. Yeah,
and so just to put that in further perspective, in 2019, the last year that Hollywood did well in the movies, right? When they had, because 2020 we were in COVID, 2021 COVID.
Yeah.
Hollywood globally made about $60 billion on movies. 60 billion, 60.
When was that?
2019. 2019 globally made 60 big, because 2020 it was lower because the theaters were closed in 2020. So the last good year they had, the biggest year they've ever had, has been about 65 billion. Okay. So now let me put this in perspective. The gaming industry this year will do $157 billion in sales. So that's more money being spent in games than every movie, every bit of popcorn, every bit of ices and candy bought at every movie theater across the United States or across the world at one time. So the gaming market is bigger than not just the Hollywood market, but the money being spent inside the theater market as well. So this is huge. And so this metaverse thing that people have been talking about, and this is going to be big, and it's going to hit our market, because not only is advertising going to benefit from this, but AV as well, because esports is going to explode. As soon as things open back up, it's going to explode. And I'm speaking at a conference in March about esports.
That's cool.
For college campuses. And there's not a college around that is not putting in or wanting to put in or planning to put in, I should say, an esports arena of some type. Whether even at UNC, as you know, we built it in the bottom of a dorm, Hinton James dorm.
Yeah.
It's Morrison and Hinton James. They have a room that's not that big. It's probably 70 by 50. And they put in an esports arena in there. But every university is going to go after esports. And by the way, it's being financed by companies like the company down the road from us, Epic Games, Activision, Blizzard. I mean, these companies are making so much money. They're financing college esports teams.
Well, I think you're telling us that we're in the wrong industry.
No, our industries are merging. We're not in the wrong industry. We're going to be playing in that industry. We're going to be putting a lot of content, a lot of display, a lot of distribution, a lot of signage in these arenas. This is going to be huge. But these are virtual also. So there's a lot of this metaverse thing. There's going to be these virtual opportunities out there as well. But I know we have news to report. We want people to go to our website at ravepubs.com. You're watching Rave TV with Gary K and Steph Beckett, coming to you live on ravepubs.com, Facebook, Twitter,
Instagram,
and also LinkedIn,
YouTube. All these other no, I don't know. But anyways, so we were talking about like faster internet, and this kind of goes along with it. There's different levels of Wi-Fi, and Bob Snyder wrote about Wi-Fi Hollow, I think is how you're supposed to pronounce it, but it's like it's better for long range and it uses less energy, but it's brand new, and the Wi-Fi Alliance kind of announced it. So he kind of goes into like depth about how that will affect the Internet of Things and how that will kind of become commonplace in the future, which is very interesting.
Yeah, so it extends the range of Wi-Fi, which means that your devices that are connected to the internet are more reliable, and not having to switch cell towers constantly.
But while also saving energy and conserving energy a little bit. So it's interesting. We have some product news from Max Hub. So there is a new all-in-one camera for an truly immersive meeting experience.
But it's 360 degree.
Yes, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more products like this where it's just something that's released and it's all in one and it's 360 degree and it's got your mic, it's got your camera, it's got everything you need, because you don't like in the future. I just think there are going to be so many more spaces that aren't meant to be an office space, but you're kind of using it like one, and you're going to need equipment that you can just kind of take with you when you leave.
I think this is a gimmick. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think putting a 360 degree camera in a room is the right way to design a room. I think they'll sell some, but I don't think this is going to be like the future of video conferencing. I think the applications are limited. I think I could be wrong, but I think it's not that big of a deal.
I kind of disagree with you, just because I think that we're not going to be able to design as many rooms in the future because people are working from home and they're going to be working from the office. So you're not going to be able to specify a conference room like you could like back before COVID. I think it's just going to be something where you just need something to kind of work. And even though it's not going to work perfectly because it wasn't made for that room, it's going to work for that meeting. So that's the only thing I'll say.
What they're going after on this is you have a table that's round and you put the camera in the middle and people are sitting around the table, and the person on the far side gets a one-on-one view of each person using one camera. And so like Zoom, you'd have a box for each person with one connection.
Yes.
And I think that's interesting, I don't think people are going to switch around the way they're building rooms now, because still people look at the display here. And so the camera's there and that's the way they're going to stay. Right. But I do think you're right in that there's an opportunity here. And again, I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to be something that all of a sudden people are like, oh my gosh, we're going to start putting 360 degree. I think that the applications are limited. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do. Yeah, that's true. Well, anyways, before we continue on, we have a commercial from our friends over at Legrand. Daylight has a new sightline feature on their Tension Advantage and Advantage electric screens, and they're going to show you what that means and what that does in this next bit.
love the fact that they've eliminated the black at the top of the screens, attention screens, so that you can put a camera there, but also if you put it in the right place, because now we're not putting screens just on the wall.
Right.
It looks like it's floating.
Yes. So you and I were talking about that, how I hate most of the time when you have the black at the top, it ends up just being totally dead, unused space. And so when it's with that like floating screen effect, it kind of like you can use that little bit of space if you want for a camera or something else. So
yeah, I think it's good design.
And it looks nice. It looks very clean.
I don't know how somebody didn't think of this 20 years ago. Maybe technologically it was hard to do, but maybe it's just like, but whoever thought of it, give them a raise.
It's like the simplest things that I feel like sometimes take like the longest to come out.
Yeah.
But in other news, the 8K Association announced certified 8K. There's like a certified 8K TV specification update, and Prime Video is now an 8K Association member. So along with some other places, but Prime Video is the most popular. So they are also, I think, trying to make 8K gaming a more seamless experience. So that is part of what the update did.
Yeah, I mean, there's no content for 8K yet, but I'm definitely excited. I mean, I'm a resolution freak, so give me more. Give me more.
Once we start, like, I think Prime Video being a member now is, I think, we're going to start seeing others trickle in, and we're going to start seeing just a few things maybe start to be in 8K resolution. But, I
mean, Amazon's big and they got a lot of distribution. By the way, I just saw Being the Ricardos. Have you seen that? That's a Prime Video movie.
No, but I've heard it was good. Was it good?
It's great. It's if you grew up with I Love Lucy, then you'll really have appreciation. The movie takes place in only 6 days or 5 days. It starts on a Monday or Sunday night and ends on a Friday. And it's 1 week in her life and what happened. I don't want to give away the hook, but it's definitely worth watching. And I think that, it's acted really well. Tom Cruise's what's her name? Nicole Kidman plays Lucy, and Gerard, I forget how to pronounce his name, but he plays Ricky Ricardo, and Pardue, something like that. I forget. But Bardot, you probably, if Sarah was here, she'd know it off the top of her head.
She does.
It's a great story, and it's cool because some of the most iconic episodes of Lucy are mentioned, and they replay them, like the grape stomping.
Yes,
and they replay, and if it is like frame by frame what the episode.
Oh, that's like. Cool. And what's the one? It's like where she's in like a factory, the candy one.
Yeah, they didn't have that one. The conveyor belt, the candy. Conveyor.
Oh, that one's like my favorite episode.
But yeah, Prime Video, Amazon, actually produced that, and it came out in the theaters, but you could also watch it on Prime. In fact, it's kind of interesting. Like, one thing I've enjoyed over the last year and a half is being able to see all the movies in my house.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That were supposed to be in movie theaters. Although for the big ones, Spider-Man, Avengers Endgame, the big movies I've gone to the theaters to see because I want to see. I want the immersion.
For sure.
IMAX all the way.
But the HBO Max kind of partnership where they get a lot of the movies, that's been nice. Speaking of which,
I am very proud to say that the new CEO of Warner Media is Jason Kilar, who graduated from the same school you and I graduated from, the School of Media and Journalism at UNC. Very cool. He started Hulu. He graduated about maybe 15, 16 years ago. Started Hulu, and then sold Hulu. Started another streaming service. I forget what it was called, and then just became the president CEO of Warner Media, which includes Warner Brothers, includes HBO Max, and he's actually going to come back and speak to the school the first Friday in February.
Cool.
Steph, you should go there and see him. He's an interesting guy.
That's cool.
So yeah, but anyway, more news.
Well, before we continue with the news, let's show a quick message from our partners over at Shure.
Okay.
We've seen nothing less than volatility in the stock market over the past 12 months. We should certainly be bracing ourselves for more of the same. Based on what we've learned from history, it would be a good idea for our investors to look to hold tight.
So, I have 2 apples in my basket, and I say to Mr. Jumble, can I have one of yours? How many apples do you think
Excuse me? Can I have your attention, please?
So, how many apples do you think I'll have if I take one from...
Hi, Grandma. Hi, Granddad.
Hello, darling. How are you?
Don't forget to plug in your mic.
Is that better?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, loads better.
Who are you waving at?
Oh, it's just our neighbour.
Sorry I'm late. As I was saying, the compelling opportunities in the stock market have the potential for a solid year of returns, which would be consistent with the second year of a bull market.
A little bit of technical difficulties there. Something happened. My phone rang and somehow iTunes opened up, starts playing on my computer. I got to call Apple and say, how is that related?
I heard something like from your computer and I was like, what is that?
It was like my phone rang. It opened up iTunes on my computer and started playing iTunes. I'm like, what is the connection there? There's somewhere at Apple, somebody's going, what's all the idea? We should do this so that it's simple.
We should do this. Did you have one of the early like Apple TVs, like one of the ones that came out in like 2011?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember the little silver remote?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, those would control your MacBook. So I would accidentally like I would play something on my Apple TV. Yeah, and then it would open up iTunes on my MacBook because I would have my MacBook open. So then it would like control both of them, and I thought that was so annoying because I was like, why?
This is
would I want that?
Yeah, and I'm keeping this to sell it on. I'm going to sell it on Sotheby's at auction for $40,000 in 20 years.
Okay.
But it has component video outputs.
Yeah.
And dust.
But
this is the original Apple TV right here.
I have like the one a few after that where it's like small. It's like a small black one, but like it barely. It still works, but like barely because I think I got it in like 2012.
It's amazing how they figured out a way to make people okay with disposable electronics in just a matter of a few years. Is it?
I know. Well, I'm hanging on to the 2012 one. That's like I still have it. It still works.
Yeah, go for it.
And then I have another one that's from like 2017. That's like got the like proper.
Well, your frame is 4K though. You should be watching 4K content.
Oh no, I do. But like my things that I have on iTunes, like I occasionally want to watch a movie that I own on iTunes, so I use my Apple TV for that. But for everything else, I use my internal Samsung apps. But
we got some audio for digital signage news, don't we?
Yes. So Michael Katz, he is our kind of like digital signage blog squatter. He works for Signage, but he wanted to talk about like the importance of designing like effective audio for digital signage. So he talked to a friend whose like expertise is audio and his expertise is digital signage. So they kind of talked about how to make the two work together for an installation. And it's very interesting. It's a good interview.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see more digital signage stuff coming about with audio. I think people are going to demand that in certain applications.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like maybe not as many like outdoor digital signage, like maybe not as many like out of home, but like they're like in stores and like retail. I think that there's like a lot of unused and untapped potential in using audio for that stuff. So
definitely.
So our last little case study that I want to mention, it takes place at UT Austin. So how do you pronounce this brand? Is it Roden Schwartz?
Roden Schwartz.
Roden Schwartz and Form Factor worked with UT Austin to improve the RF switches for 5G and 6G. There it is again, Gary. We're talking about 5G
if we ever get it
again. Yeah. So they were characterizing like a new technology that improves battery life performance and supporting the higher bandwidths and switching speeds. So I thought that was pretty interesting if that is your thing. And I thought that kind of went with our theme of talking about the speeds of.
And by the way, for those of you who are interested in 5G, it turns on Saturday. So on Saturday, if you're in an area that is going to be allowed to have 5G, which is going to be 90% of the country, it'll flip on Saturday around noon. So if that happens, you should be able to go to your phone and do a speed test and see like giant, definitely well over 200, 300 megabit downloads and potentially up to a gig, depending on where you live.
How did they pick the 10% of the country that's not going to get it? Like,
so what happened is the airlines threw a fit. FCC, you haven't tested enough. Now let's think about this. They told everyone, the industry told everyone they're going to turn on 5G and the date they were going to turn it on 3 years ago. So the FCC had plenty of time to plan for this. And then the FCC finally caved into the airlines and said, yeah, we haven't totally finished. So they basically picked the big airports. And over top of those big airports, they're blocking the 5G. So the 10% basically is the big airport areas all around the country. But outside of that, we're one of the last countries to activate 5G, by the way. If you're in Europe, you're in Asia, you're already getting it. We're just lagging along here as we normally do.
And, if you have an older phone, will it work?
No. Yeah, I mean, it won't take advantage of 5G. If you have a phone that says 5GE, you won't get 5G. If you have a phone that says 5G and no E after it, you'll see true 5G speed. So if you have an iPhone 12 or later, a 12 Pro or later, I should say, or if you have the new I don't know what the numbers are on the Samsung, the recent Samsung Galaxies, so you'll see, it'll just say 5G. If you see 5G and that's all you see, you should be able to go to speedtest.net and do a speed test.
What does the E stand for? 5G, except for you, because you're not getting it because you can't afford a new phone.
Do you remember AT&T Edge? Remember Edge? Edge is like, we're kind of there. We're on the edge of being there. So 5G Edge is like fake 5G.
Okay.
So it's faster, but not 5G.
I still like to think it stands for 5G, except for you using this really old phone because you refused to get a new one because you still like that it has a center button. Or that just might be me.
It's all of us.
All right. Well, we are already past time, so I believe that is all the time we have, Gary. I will see you next Wednesday at noon Eastern, where we will be live on rAVe Pubs, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. I think that's everything. And see you next week. Yep. Bye. Bye.
It's the weekly show about Pro AV with the hottest news in the AV industry. It's rAVe TV. Give it up for Steph and Gary. Steph and Gary.